Start. So welcome everyone to this SUS Polar AUV task team meeting. It's actually the final meeting for this task team. And I'd just like to, introduce the co-chairs, Wansang Lee from COPRI, Karen Haywood from UAE, and Arnav Island from University of Gothenburg. So I guess tonight the main event is two talks on the recent season down south in the Amundsen, from the AUV teams from the UK and also from Sweden. I just thought I can see some familiar faces amongst the participants, but also some newcomers. So by way of introduction, the SUS Polar AUV task team sort of came to be back in 2019 in a very different world, I feel now, looking back at this picture. This isn't actually COPRI, but this is the view from the enormous hotel I was staying in. But it was essentially a SUS meeting for the Amundsen sector back in 2019. And at that point, the Swedish have just finished their first campaign at Thwaites with the RAN AUV. And COPRI was lining up to go back down the following season. And so it was a good time to bring together some of the groups that were new to the AUV space at that time. I guess just by way of background, the last 2 decades, I think everyone would agree, was firmly dominated by the UK's AutoSub program. But in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been this new emergence of groups from Sweden, Australia, also from Japan, China, all entering with Polar AUV capability. So given that, that sort of change, if you like, we wanted to sort of bring together the new players, the new vehicles, and new capabilities to see what could be done in a collaborative sense under the SUS banner. We'd known from watching AutoSub over the previous decades that it's high reward, but also high risk. And there was a concerted effort to look at reducing that risk through collaboration, to look around things like data sharing, also resource sharing, the idea of different AUV teams needing access to icebreakers, even switching sensors or teams, entire AUVs. There'd been some background work done by an international expert panel on Polar AUV. This was very much engineering focused. Peter King might be amongst us now, but he was the leader of that initiative through the Australian Antarctic Gateway Partnership. That was the idea, to bring together all the AUV teams, in particular the engineering teams that have been involved in polar work, and to really work together to sort of form a new community to help the new players as much as anything else. Some key outputs from that work with the expert panel was the desire to build up best practices for AUV operations, but also this clear message that, from the engineering point of view anyway, having very clear science objectives was critical. And so with that sort of engineering focused panel in play, the idea was to build a separate entity under the task team with, I guess, more of a focus on the clear science objectives. I guess we all know what happened in 2020. Things got a little bit changed, and so there's some delays for a lot of the work that was done. When we did sort of come back around together, there was a refocusing of the task team to really drill into that idea that we wanted to bring together the science coordination, in particular for these large multinational integrated observation programs like the ITGC, and to bring together the idea that, as was becoming apparent, that we were going to have more than one icebreaker and more than one AUV team in Antarctica at a time. So looking at that high level integration of the science objectives between those groups, because it was clear as well, and hopefully it comes out tonight in the talks, or today in the talks, that each of the nations has quite unique AUVs which bring different capabilities to the fore. And this was a big part of the discussions was around not duplicating effort, but also using the different strengths of the different teams to attack the larger problem. The main focus, these SUS task teams generally go for 1 to 2, or in our case 3 years. And for us, it was really much focused on this idea of there being some coordinated multinational campaigns in the Thwaites region from, at that stage, the 3 main large Explorer class AUVs. So yeah, very much about research collaboration, also about data sharing and that transfer of knowledge, not necessarily at the very hardcore engineering level, but certainly at the science planning and coordination level. So I guess just in this slide, we just show that I guess an early win from the Australian point of view was that we had an AUV capability, but we didn't have access to icebreakers at that point in time. And so we were very fortunate to be invited to join the South Korean Lion STG program in 2018-19. Following on from the Swedish experience the year before, there was an opportunity to learn from what the Swedish had gathered on their preliminary AUV missions in that year, and also just their general broad experience of the region. And then I guess the hardcore work became planning around at that stage, 3 campaigns for 3 AUV teams for the last season, 21-22. And I guess it puts us in a nice position going forward. The idea was always that this wouldn't be the end, hopefully, and that there would be more AUVs integrated into these multinational observing programs, and that hopefully this task team would be a springboard to assisting those new proposals. So I'm not going to drag on too much. I think what's really exciting tonight is to hear about these preliminary results from the last season. And tonight we're going to have a talk, hope that's okay, Anna, if you go first, with the Swedish RAN AUV, followed by Professor Karen Hayward talking about the auto sub long range effort. So if everyone's happy, I'll transfer to Anna. And perhaps we can just wait till the end of the talk, and then I'll run through whoever's got their hand up and pass some questions over.